Um, I love your genuine local concept. I was in Intercourse, Pennsylvania when I was a young lad and went to a Amish place that they had their kitchen behind glass and everybody in the store could see
Yep.
what was cooking, and they were just buying up stuff because they could see it was fresh.
Right.
And I always wanted to do what you're doing, attached to a farmer's market, so that everything would be in one spot. But I was teaching and running a farmer's market with my students, and was rubbing nickels together to keep everything afloat. Commercial kitchens cost a few pennies.
One or two. Yeah. There's actually a couple of models around the country. I mean, for every facility that does something like what we do, there's a slightly different way to do it. And we haven't run across any two that are run identically the same. So there's a whole bunch of different models out there.
Well, I like your concept because somebody who's just getting into the food processing doesn't have to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to get started.
That's pretty much the whole premise behind what we do.
So let you roll here.
Okay, let me get the share screen going. I've lost one of the screens, so hang on a second. There we go. Now it looks like you're going to have to look at it in the ugly view. Unless one of you knows a trick on how to make the...
Go to slideshow. And click from beginning.
All right.
And it should, there we go.
There we go. Okay. So we are Genuine Local. Genuine Local is a mission-driven business accelerator that started with the belief that it should just simply be easier to make clean food. Everything we do is based around our mantra, which is access, growth, success. And if what we're doing does not result in access, like access to business consulting or larger equipment or collaborative buying so that you can get cheaper prices on ingredients or packaging, then we're spending our time in the wrong place. The growth focuses primarily on the growth of our customers and the members of the Genuine Local community. It includes not only growth of their business in a conventional entrepreneurial sense, but also growth in terms of sustainability and growth in terms of personal and professional development. And success is kind of my favorite part of it because every one of our customers defines success in a different way. For some people, they want to fill up a certain amount of their life with what they're doing, and that's it. So water finds its own level. Some people are wildly ambitious and they're going to take over the world selling their products, and others are very happy to settle into a groove and a routine. But no matter how they define it, getting there is what Genuine Local is all about. The core values for Genuine Local come down to supporting efforts to strengthen our local food system. And the way we do that sort of personally is through volunteering efforts. Between the owners of the company, we've served as members and chairs of the New Hampshire Food Alliance action teams. Gavin has been on the Food Alliance leadership team for 3 or 4 years now, at least, possibly more. We've been involved with the Food Alliance since they began in 2015. I was formerly the chair of the Made in New Hampshire Board of Trustees, and supporting local business and people trying to get into business is really important. And volunteering in that food-based community is how we choose to try to spend our time. We collaborate regionally. New Hampshire, as you know, is such a small state. You can't just look in your own neighborhood and find everything that you need. We've worked with the Cooperative Extension, Belknap County Conservation District, the Food Alliance Food Hub Network, the Farm to School program, Lakes Region Food Network. We work a lot on food safety issues with folks from UMass Amherst. And I know this is not a comprehensive list. The network that we've been fortunate enough to develop over the last 7 years has really been core to the success of Genuine Local to this point. And then there's just the day-to-day. By establishing Genuine Local, we've had the opportunity to create jobs. We went from the 2 of us doing this to now there are 7 people working full-time. We've created new jobs. We do a lot of work on food safety training, which we think has a lot of broader benefit than just when it's required. We work with the State Food Protection Bureau, and oftentimes they will let people know that we have certified trainers on staff, and we'll talk with restaurants who might need to have a half a dozen or more people trained through a program called Serve Safe or Always Food Safe, or one of the recognized programs. Community development is, again, critical to what we do daily. We've been fortunate enough to purchase a building in downtown Laconia, which has gone a long way towards our ability to find a workforce. Most of our employees could walk to work. 2 out of 3 walk to work now. 3 of them could walk to work if they wanted. But putting down roots and becoming part of that, of truly a downtown community, has been a really interesting opportunity over the last year. And every day we're making connections. We've been truly humbled. We tend to put our head down and just try to work and move forward, and you forget the impact that you might be having on somebody else. And the response to the efforts and the encouragement from that support that we get is just amazing. Belknap County Conservation District just in September surprised us. You could have knocked us over with a feather when we got the email saying, hey, guess what? You're our cooperator of the year. We were involved with the New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility pre-pandemic, and we were the Sustainability Slam winner for 2019 and 2020. If you're not familiar with that, it's a statewide organization, and the Sustainability Slam is a fundraiser for them, but what they do is they get all kinds of different businesses from around the state to put on a presentation, and it's usually humorous, about a program or an initiative that they've undertaken to try to improve the sustainability, some sustainability facet of their business. And 2 years running, we featured our value-added program, which I'll talk more about in a few minutes. And we were very pleased to have won both years. But it's really not about the 3 owners who helps us succeed. First and foremost, it's our local makers. And local makers are individuals that own a food company or have an idea. They're the people when the phone rings that we hear, well, I make my grandmother's jelly and everyone tells me it's the best jelly they've ever had, and so I should sell it, but I don't know what to do. So we can help them do that. They would come in and rent our facility and make the product themselves, but we help them by education, by business coaching, direction, and just training in general. making food's not hard, but it's not easy either. It's not straightforward. The regulations aren't necessarily straightforward and clear. You don't necessarily get the same answer to the same question if you ask two different people. So we help them navigate all of that. And then we give them access to larger equipment. You can make about 4 cases of jam at home in a day, and you can make 40 cases of jam in about 6 hours using our bigger equipment. So it's kind of like a little time machine. It creates time for local makers to go out and sell their products. Many of our local makers, as they become more successful, their food business is a side gig. And so they're running out of time, and they will go and they'll be faced with the decision of, do I make the product or do I spend my time selling the product? And we always tell them, no one's going to sell it better than you do. So they'll hire Genuine Local to actually do the manufacturing, which is called co-packing. And we specialize in small batch co-packing. A lot of contract manufacturers have very high minimums, like a 20,000 unit range. Our minimum is more like, if you're making a sauce or jam, salsa, something like that, it's more like 350. So it's a much more manageable number to start with from a financial investment. It's a much more manageable size of inventory to manage and store and to sell as you basically get your product into the market and determine what the reception is going to be. And probably one of our favorite programs and the most challenging program to get off the ground is our value-added program. The first couple of years, we talked to several farmers about the idea of taking crop surplus or a planned crop surplus, meaning that they actually planted something with an intention to turn it into a shelf-stable product. And they all, figuratively stood around looking at each other. And it took the first 1 or 2 farmers to come in and actually turn some of these fruits and vegetables that they were going to lose the value of into a shelf-stable product that gave them 2 more years to do something with it. They could extend their CSA season. They could open their farm stand earlier. They could offer something that their neighbor didn't. And that was a product made within 20 minutes of their farm that had a label that indicated their name, their product, the ingredients were grown at their farm, and it allowed them to tell their own story on the label, because printing labels in-house is something we also have the capability to do. And once those first couple of farms turned, then others started noticing. And we have been really fortunate to work with farmers all throughout New England. Because we are one of the few companies that does this, people are willing to travel. And I mentioned that we purchased a building last fall, and it's kind of a Cinderella story of how far we've come. This picture is actually our entire production area when we started. The entire building, well, we opened on January 25th, 2016 was the first batch we ever made as Genuine Local, and it was in Meredith. We had a 1,600 square foot facility. About 60% of that was dedicated to production that you see there. And the rest of it was an office and warehouse and receiving and the bathroom, and everything was in a very tight footprint. And we only had the single production space. Last year, we were able to purchase a building, and on December 7th, we made our first batch of product. We now have 8,700 square feet. We have a real warehouse, and we have 4 separate production spaces. What this has enabled us to do is to acquire some additional equipment, which increases the capacity and the opportunity for our local makers and other customers. But we actually have 2 types of licensing from the state. We have a beverage license and a food license. So we can make a much broader range of products simultaneously than we could in our original facility. But taking a look at Genuine Local through some pictures will give you a much better sense of what we do than anything that I can say. So hopefully
Small batch
this will
contract
work.
manufacturer. Genuine Local has been providing access to the resources food businesses need to grow and achieve success since 2016. Arriving in Laconia in November of 2021, this family-owned and operated business is pleased to be joining the thriving commercial community here in the downtown area. Let's take a look inside and see what the buzz is all about. Here you can see the first of 4 licensed commercial production spaces. During the day, this space is run by the Genuine Local production team, cooking and bottling hundreds of units daily for the more than 70 clients that contract with Genuine Local. The types of products made here are primarily shelf-stable foods like salsa, barbecue sauce, salad dressings, and mustard. Genuine Local is excited to make this space available to independent food businesses for rental by the hour, providing much-needed access to equipment and resources for growing food companies in the Lakes region. The second and largest production area of Genuine Local can be seen here. This area is solely dedicated to the production of hot-packed beverage products, an area of business the company could not pursue in its previous location due to space constraints. Featured in this area of the facility are 2 80-gallon jacketed steam kettles and an automated labeling and coding line. This room can produce anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 units daily. Before moving to this facility, Genuine Local received numerous contract manufacturing inquiries from beverage companies and is pleased to announce they are now able to meet this demand. The third production space available at Genuine Local is featured here. This area is dedicated to baking and stovetop cooking by local producers. Local food trucks and other mobile food retailers love this space for prepping their meals. It is rentable by the hour any time of day or night. Moving on to the final production space, the dry fill area. This space is used for dry packaging and fulfillment and is also available to rent by local producers. The types of products made in this space include flavored salts, dry mixes like pancake and crepe mixes, spice blends, and more. This segregated space is ideal for the type of products that could potentially be airborne, which is in keeping with Genuine Local's commitment to food safety and allergen control. As you can see, Genuine Local has a lot to offer to food producers in the Lakes region. Beyond the physical production of goods and rentable commercial space, Genuine Local also offers business development services like business consultation, label development and nutrition fact panels, ingredient and packaging aggregation, and more. Genuine Local remains committed to its original mission of lowering the bar to entry into the specialty food industry. Genuine Local's new space provides even greater opportunities to help their customers chart the right course on their individual journeys to success. As the founders of the company have believed since the beginning, a rising tide will raise all ships. Please take a look at the Genuine Local website for more information. When you're ready to move forward with your food dreams, follow the links in the Start Today page at genuinelocal.org. We're all looking forward to meeting you soon, and thanks for stopping by.
So hopefully that gives you more of a spatial sense of kind of what Genuine Local is in terms of a facility. One of the things that we've been very fortunate to enjoy is actually steady growth for the last several years. The impact of the pandemic wasn't all bad. Things slowed down, everybody got a little scared and things pulled back. In our case, it only lasted about 6 weeks. A lot of people seem to have taken the opportunity to do some self-reflection and thinking about their life and how they're spending their time. And we were surprised that a lot of people equated making food with happiness. We had a lot of people who said, well, I used to do fill in the blank, and this is what I want to do now. And so we have a lot of very early stage entrepreneurs that are coming along as a direct result of the pandemic. But the value added production is an interesting facet to that story. A lot of the local farms ran out of food. What they might have sold to restaurants, they were selling at their farm stand. We talked to a lot of people who simply did not have enough. They hesitated to plant. They didn't know what was going to happen. There was a lot of conversation going on. Are you going to plant this? How much are you going to plant? Are you going to cut back? And so what we anticipated was that we would see a significant drop in the value added program. But 2020 compared to 2020 or to 2019 rather, we saw a 20% increase, and we saw a 25% increase in 2021. And at this point, we're on track to see another 25% increase. So the value that people equate with the value added program certainly seems to be there. And we're really happy that it's working for people. One of the best aspects of what we do is getting to work with a wide range of people. And I want to go over a little project that talks about the power of community connection. The partners to this are Fresh Start Market in Manchester, the Manchester School District, Nashua School District, Fresh Start Farms in Dunbarton, Winnipesaukee Woods Farm in Guilford, and Genuine Local. The idea is that school students planted tomatoes, and they sprouted the seedlings, and then Fresh Start farmers grew and harvested tomatoes, which were then brought to us at Genuine Local, where we made pizza sauce out of the tomatoes. This year was not a great tomato year, so they didn't have as many tomatoes as hoped. And we were able to connect them with Winnie Woods Farm, who is able to provide some additional tomatoes and keep the project going. So we turn it into pizza sauce, and then Fresh Start Market makes it into pizzas using locally produced pizza dough. And then the pizza is distributed back to the students who first planted the tomatoes. It's a great educational project. And I know, Sarah, that you could probably fill in a lot of blanks on this, but working with Jameson and the whole team at Fresh Start Farms is always exciting because they're full of clever ideas, but they are really committed to that whole sense of connecting community. And as you can see, this one project covered nearly half the state, at least north to south. Doing projects like this is something that Genuine Local is committed to trying to continue. And we think that it demonstrates a range of possibilities for folks that they might not otherwise consider. Looking forward, we are optimistic and anticipating steady growth for the Genuine Local community. We are excited to be able to now offer more professional development, both on the food safety and production side, as well as some of the ancillary skills that are necessary, like marketing for our employees. And a diversification in skills and the support that we can offer to local makers and to our local farms. We're always looking for new ideas and new ways to provide support and keep it cost effective. The supply chain challenges have hit us hard. Packaging prices have increased between 30 and 50%. Most of that goes to transportation costs. So being creative and collaborating is the only way that we have found to try to stem the tide of the rising inflationary costs. And we're looking forward to exploring the new connections that are being made every day. There's our contact information, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
So, Sarah, you are in direct contact with farmers and landowners that, do we write business plans for them?
Well, just to back up, so Jameson Small's my husband.
Okay.
He's part of the project. But,
Oh, okay. So you're a ringer tonight.
yeah. No, you know what's really funny is that I think he brought home a sample pizza tonight, which is like completely a coincidence. So
Oh, okay.
I might be taste testing the pizzas that they'll be assembling. So I'll let you know how they are.
Okay.
But I have tasted the sauce many times. We use it a lot. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
no,
I'm-
we don't
if-
write business plans, but cooperative extension does. And I'm sure, as you know, I'm sure you're connected with that group, the business
Yep,
group. Jesse,
yep.
part of that
We
group.
work- Yeah, we work with Kelly McAdam a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're out there doing the growing piece and the soil piece and say,
Mhm.
here's genuine local that can take your produce and go to the next step. It's not just farm to table, it's sunshine, soil and water to processing and value added.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like we can just, I was just thinking about like sharing this presentation broadly within our network, sharing it with farmers that we work with. So definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely, because this is a way to keep the land in production is to sell it for more value and increase the shelf life. This is fabulous.
It
So
seemed,
are you the, go
It's-
ahead, Richard.
seemed to me when you're talking about the production quantities and maybe you have to decide how much to plant and maybe it didn't grow as well as you expected, but if you have a collaborative association of producers are you sort of the middleman that can say, hey, we need more tomatoes this week. Anybody have them? Is that the way it works? Or-
It is and it isn't. We try to stay in touch and kind of keep our finger on the pulse of who's got what. But we try to stay out of the middle. And part of the reason for that is because we want the cost to stay as affordable as possible. But for instance, in this case with the pizza sauce, when we ran short a couple 100 pounds, to make a batch of pizza sauce, you need between 300 and 400 pounds of tomatoes per batch. So I think that we got somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 pounds from Fresh Start, and we needed to fill out the balance of that. And we happened to know a couple of local farmers who had tomatoes. They came in very late this season. The deer were terrible. The weather conditions were terrible. Everything worked against them. And then all of a sudden, anybody who had them all at once. So we were able to make a couple of phone calls and put people together that way. One of the other, not so much with the pizza sauce project, but with the more traditional value-added program, after the first 2 years that we had done it, we were talking to one of the first farmers to try it. And he's relatively gruff and he always sounds like he's complaining, but you have to listen to the words to know whether he really is or not. And he was talking about the fact that his accountant was very happy with him because he had all of this GD surplus inventory. Well, it turns out having the inventory was a tax benefit that he had never had before. So it was one of those push me, pull yous. Well, I paid for it. Now what? Oh, well, now what? You get to sell it, but you also get to have the tax benefit from having the inventory on hand to open your next season with. So it's a sort of a win-win-win kind of thing for the farmer. And that's an important element because most of the things that get turned into value added, by the time the season is over and they come in and we put them into a jar, it's pretty late in the season. You know, it can be October before you end up with your salsa. And so you have a very limited amount of time if you're doing a conventional CSA or even a farm stand to sell it, but you've got it to sell and start earlier in the spring.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of like what's your furthest customer? How far they're coming from?
For farms, we've got customers that are over in Vermont. I've got a customer up in Conway. We've got several customers that are down on the seacoast. We've had conversations with some farms over in the Monadnock area, but it's just, there's just no good way to get here. So that's never come together for us. But yeah, people will travel probably an hour and a half to 2 hours each way to bring us product. And we do everything in a what's called a just-in-time manufacturing model, meaning that all of our ingredients and packaging arrive 2 to 3 days in a perfect world. Pre-pandemic, it was 2 to 3 days. Now it's a week because we've got a much more diversified lead time for all of the sources. But we assemble everything, it gets converted. So a farmer would bring us their produce or fruit, say on a Tuesday, and the next day it would get converted into value-added product and it's available to pick up the following day. So within 2 days, it's all turned around for the farmer.
So what would be the capacity for growth? Are you pretty well maxed out in terms of your expanded facility, or how much more capacity do you have in front of you?
Well, the capacity, I don't want to say is limitless because it's clearly not, but we are running Monday through Friday, 1 shift, and we could run 7 days a week, 3 shifts if we had that demand and we could find people that were willing to work. Realistically, what we've done is in our old space, we either were making food or we were making beverages. And so we've already doubled our capacity right out of the gate by having a space where we can make food simultaneous to making beverages in a different space. So we've more than probably tripled our capacity, and we run at about between 60 and 80% capacity from a production scheduling standpoint. Before we left Meredith, it was getting just ridiculous. People would call up and it would be 6 to 8 to even 10 months before we could get them a spot on the calendar. And now we can get them a spot on the calendar within 3 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a much more realistic time frame. And it also gives us the ability and flexibility to kind of control that schedule. If, for instance, we have a commodity production and we have a value added inquiry, the value added is time sensitive because those ingredients are only going to be good for a finite window. So we've got some ability to move around the commodity productions to accommodate a value added production.
Do any farmers use distributors to get their product to you, or has that not happened quite yet?
Well, no, it hasn't. There've been a lot of conversations about it. And part of the challenge is that the way the food hubs are set up are each, like I mentioned, with kitchens like ours, for every kitchen, there's a different model. Well, for every food hub in the state of New Hampshire, there's a different model.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not all focusing on the same things. Food Connects is probably the closest organization, as well as Three River Farmers Alliance over on the seacoast. And neither of them are coming to Laconia. So the closest they're coming is probably Concord. So we've had conversations, it's just, it hasn't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah.
But it's a lot closer than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
Wow.
great. It'd be great. Like kind of service you can advertise. It's like, hey, you can get your product on this truck that's headed to us along with some other folks, and sounds like a good sell for people who might not be able to get there.
Yep.
I have a question about your production crew. Does that come with the rental of the space, or do the people bring their own labor?
Yes. The way that we structure it is that it is a flat fee per hour for rental of the facility. And that includes access to any of the equipment that you might need. So for instance, if you're making salsa, you might need to use more processing equipment. We have a machine, it's called a Dido, and it's like a great big food processor to chop onions and peppers and whatever. Whereas if you were making bread, you would only need to use the mixer. It doesn't matter what you're making, you've got access to any and all of the equipment that's there that you need, included in that flat fee. Usually local makers bring their own labor. If they need assistance or they aren't comfortable necessarily doing things all on their own just because it's a little different, they have the opportunity to rent a genuine local employee to help them for the day, but that's an additional charge. And we don't charge a membership or contract fee. We get calls all the time from people who are shopping around for a facility to use. And like I say, there's as many different models as there are buildings. So we decided from the outset not to have a model that requires people to pay simply to play. We don't have, like I say, a membership fee. We don't have long-term contracts. It's truly a pay as you go, and you know, you reserve it as you need it approach.
Wow. Now, if somebody could do this with meat, we'd be in a real good setup in this state. But meat and vegetable people should not be the same person.
No, I agree.
Nope.
Well, when you have somebody coming in to do their own food processing, how do you monitor their certifications?
We go through a new customer intake process where we have them fill out a form, they submit it to us, so we have at least a sense of kind of where they are. And then we outline all of the steps that are required before they can actually come into the facility. And that would include having their own food license, which is a requirement of the state. It also requires them to have certain food safety training, like the Serve Safe training I mentioned. And they have to have insurance. They need to be a registered business with the state of New Hampshire. All of that is done simply to ensure that they're covered from a liability standpoint. We also do require a certificate of insurance, and we spend a lot of time educating people about product liability insurance. Business insurance for food producers is slightly different than some other business insurance. So that they basically have to work through all of those check boxes before they can even make that reservation. Once we do get to that point where they're coming in to do their production, the very first time they come in an hour early, and that hour is spent just doing a physical orientation. And then somebody works with them at no additional charge to train them on the specific equipment that they need and to ensure that they understand how to implement the cleaning and sanitization practices so that the facility is left the way that they found it. And that we minimize all risk of allergen transference or cross-contamination, all those concerns that you have in a food safety setting. And then they use the facility a couple of times, and we find that after 3 times they've used it, most people are feeling comfortable. But we're also fortunate in that we're local to the facility. And so if there was a question and they were in there and they weren't sure about something, we stress, just ask. We don't want someone to have a bad experience. So, or get frustrated, or worse, break the equipment. So we make ourselves very accessible and basically just monitor their activity after that.
For the recipes, for let's just say the sauce, for example, and I actually don't know as much as you might think I would know. We kind of both have our own things going on sometimes, but do people, if someone brings 400 pounds of tomatoes, you have the rest of the recipe, or they have to bring all that?
It can work a variety of ways, and it can work in a hybrid. A lot of times the people that come to us, you can't copyright a recipe. And so the best we can do is to have a mutual non-disclosure agreement with all of our customers that says, we promise not to tell anybody else what's in your fill in the blank. And we help them scale that recipe. But most of what we do is what we call hot pack and hold production, meaning that the product is shelf stable because of temperature that you get it to and pH and water activity. So it controls the bacterial growth. But once they get to a point of wanting to move forward, if it is their own recipe, we help them scale it, and we'll do in-house testing, but they have to go to somewhere like the University of Maine or Cornell to a food safety lab for what's called a process review, which is required under the federal regulations. And like I said, it's not hard to make food, it's just complicated. Once they get the approval of the process authority, then that recipe can be used as a formulation. It can't be changed. So our staff, we really like it when people have no experience when they come to work for us. We're not looking for restaurant people. We're certainly not looking for chefs, because they want to tweak it. Oh, it needs a little more salt. Oh, it needs a little less salt. No, it needs exactly that amount of salt, because that is the formulation. And that creates the consistency, but also it goes to the food safety. So if somebody comes in and simply says, I have tomatoes, I want to make something, we have a library of recipes that already have a process review. So we can pull out one of those recipes and they can choose from that as well. And a lot of times that's what the farms do for the value added. Although this last summer we had Grandview Farm from Conway want to make what they called cowboy candy, which is basically candied jalapenos. And while we have recipes for candied jalapenos, theirs was slightly different. So we needed to go through the whole process with that.
And for like bulk ingredients, I don't know if you already answered this, but do you have like large vats of salt in like the main ingredients of things, or do people have to?
For what we call kind of pantry ingredients, we do keep ingredients on hand, and we will sell them to the customer if they're a local maker, if they're making their own product. When we're making a product, we simply build that into the price. One of the things that we do is we price units for anything that we co-pack. We give the customer the price on a per unit basis, like a per jar or per bottle. And part of the reason we do that is because a lot of people come in not understanding what their costs of goods sold are. So at least they know the component of the equation that Genuine Local's involved with. And then if they grew the peppers that went into the hot sauce, then they can put their own price for what those peppers would be on top of the unit. So.
Okay. It's very interesting.
Well, you're all welcome to come down and take a tour. It's interesting, and it's always fun to see people's expressions when they see the equipment, and particularly when it's operating.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, thank you very much. This is enlightening, and I hope we're able, when we're out in the field, to nudge people in your direction, because this is an important piece of the puzzle.
I got a question though, in terms of your overall business plan, how much are you interested in sharing that to make it happen in other places?
We have, we're really guilty of leaving money on the table. There have been several times that we've been contacted by organizations looking to try to set something up. And the hours that we have spent talking with them and educating them, and never billing them for it, I think is a testament to how much we believe in what we're doing. I'm not really concerned that there are going to be so many of this type of operation popping up that it's going to be a negative competition scenario, because there is, at the end of the day, a lot of regulatory oversight and compliance work that goes into it, and a lot of educational training that's required to operate the facility. It's not an easy lift to open the doors. And for that reason, if someone is trying to do it even on the scale of simply for their own use, like they make a barbecue sauce and they want to build their own kitchen, they're still going to have to register with the FDA. They're still going to have a food license like we do, a food production and manufacturing license. And helping them walk through that process, I don't think takes $1 off of our plate.
Are you on the New Hampshire Farm Network
No,
page?
not at this point. We've done a variety of things over the years to see what works and what doesn't work. And we've been very fortunate that we've been so busy that we can't really keep up with the marketing aspects. So we're not good at marketing ourselves.
I recently just went to I think it's kind of a restart for this group through Cooperative Extension. But they're launching a new webpage that kind of just lists all these resources for farmers and organizations out there. So I just thought it would be a good fit.
Yeah. If you shoot me a note with the information, we'll take a look at it. I know that
Definitely.
there have been some mapping efforts. Department of Ag has done a couple, and I think the Food Alliance has been involved in another one, identifying where food hubs are and where different markets and things like that. And we've been on some of those as well, but
Yeah, I understand that you're in a bubble sometimes.
absolutely.
Well, I think you've presented yourself quite well today, and I think this may be viewed from our website as well. So good luck to you.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
My
So
pleasure.
we'll call it a night, and that was fabulous.
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Catch you
Bye-bye.
later.
Bye.
Bye.